Let's say that an MMA fighter comes to you for help and that he has a fight in 2 months. How would you plan his strength and conditioning regime? And also, how would you approach it from a yearly perspective? Please give us your brief outline.
So I would say when it comes to combat sports, you should have a very simple heuristic, saying that last 8 weeks or 4 weeks, like 4 to 8 weeks, is something that you are comfortable with doing, and you shouldn't be experimenting with changing coaches that close to a fight. And your preparation should be as specific as possible. You should have done that a couple of times, so you exactly know what you should be doing last 8 weeks. So changing coaches, first of all, is not very smart. 2 months before a match. But if that happens, and usually happens, I would say the major objective of the coach taking care of that athlete is that not...
You mean strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, strength and conditioning coach, of course, or any other coach, is to make sure he doesn't screw him up, pretty much. So he wants to make sure that athlete is available for the head coach or a combat sport or a skill coach most of the time. So you don't want to put more oil to the fire in that particular scenario. So the idea would be not to come along just slamming the door with your training program, but rather try to go through a backdoor, see what you can improve without putting more oil to the fire in terms of training load, and in terms of affecting the skill training. That's a main focus of that period, and tapering for a match. So you should be pretty much smart and start small, pretty much. And I like this concept of the micro-loading. So rather than having a specific days where you put like tremendous load on the athlete, you should rather, like from a risk perspective, it's wiser to do a little bit of everything. So just making sure you're covering all the bases without saturating the training load in a specific quality. And especially in that period, because it's very, very risky to, if you saturate a certain quality, the athlete might react negatively, and it's going to affect his skill session, might affect his confidence, and everything goes down the hill. So you need to be very cautious, like very close to the fight, and ideally you would like that athlete to come to you like months before, so you have a much more time to make any risky moves. So
this reminds me of something that you wrote about, is the via negativa principle. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you try not to add too much things, and maybe even see what you can how you can improve the athlete by subtracting something. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. So any intervention could be looked from via positiva and via negativa. So what you are bringing, so the positive effects, and via negativa is what you are removing. So and most of the time, coaches just try to put more and more stuff inside. Like, let's do gymnastics, let's do swimming, let's do rhythmical gymnastics, let's do yoga, let's do this and that. And that's a via positiva approach. So you want to try to make sure that he improves. And via negativa is trying to remove the necessary elements. But it also means removing the negative things. So, for example, if he's sleeping poorly, poor nutritional habits, high stress levels. So rather than putting more load on him, you try to remove that stuff. So that's kind of like a via negativa approach when it comes to training planning. But also, via negativa means making sure that athlete is available for the skill coach on every session fully. So you want to protect from fatigue, from minor injuries, tweaks and quirks, or whatever you want to call it. People are asking for a magic bullet, and if you don't give them magic bullet, they just, it's like asking it's called like a grandmother advice. I think Nassim Taleb also calls it like that. It's just very simple advice, and we usually, shake it off because it's so simple. We want something, special, some magic bullet, and everybody's looking for that. I mean, myself included. I get into that,
state of mind.
But eventually it comes to the basics, just making sure you're doing basics correctly. So just few important things you're doing correctly, and that's pretty much it.
And being injury-free.
Exactly, being available. So I would say the major objective is you should be able to train. So consistency beats any specific loading or any fancy periodization strategy. Just making sure you show up. So that's I would say rule number one. Make sure you show up injury-free, hopefully.
If you want to take your mental game to the next level, check out my mental training for MMA 2.0, a fighter's guide to mental toughness instructional. To find out more, click on the link in the description.